Welcome to Sungrown Stories. I am super excited to have Tom here from Seedsman. Tom, I just call you Tom Seedsman. I don't even know what your last name is. What is that?
My surname is Raikes, but yeah, I get known by many as Tom Seedsman. It's fairly straightforward.
Well, that's your Instagram handle as well. So it's just like, we have this whole new social media life where our handle, like, my producer, Cat Lady, that's her handle. You just know them as their name. That's their name.
It works very well, and certainly in the kind of legacy area of this business where you're worried about banks and things like that catching up with you and not liking your business, not having a surname sometimes is a real benefit. That's it. The industry is changing, and we're less worried about those kind of things. But certainly in the past, just having a first name can sometimes work to your advantage.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I want to hear about that. I want to hear about what it's been like through legalization in Spain because it's still illegal, right? But they kind of just like turn the other cheek,
So,
or
I mean, we started the business originally in the UK, where there's a funny loophole in the law that it's legal to own, buy, and sell hemp or cannabis seeds, but it's illegal to grow them. So we started in the UK in 2002. By 2003, we were selling, having just done the kind of foundations of the business, and every packet went out saying, "Don't grow these; they're illegal to grow." And beyond that, as long as we weren't encouraging their cultivation, we were legal to sell them. But like I said, we had problems with banks and institutions like that were kind of fundamental to our business over the course of about 7, 8 years. And all of our big competitors were in Spain, and my business partner and I had met actually in Spanish classes. So we thought, what the hell are we doing? Let's set up in Spain. The banking is more friendly. The climate's great. We can spend more time there. There's a big market there. There's the rest of Europe. So we set up in Spain. And in Spain, there's another set of strange laws where you can legally do what you want in the privacy of your own home if it's not for profit, which includes cultivation, can kind of include seed production, although if you're starting to sell the seeds, it does then become something to do with profit. But these kind of legal loopholes that we've really used quite successfully over the last 20 years, between Spain and the UK, and now the US has kind of followed suit with the change to the Farm Bill in 2018, when effectively cannabis marijuana seeds became legal to trade and importable legally with plant health paperwork, which is what we do.
yeah, it's crazy. All of the loopholes right now going on. I mean, starts with seeds, and now currently we have like this whole. Well, we had the Delta 8 loophole. Now it's the THCA loophole. And it's like, we in the cannabis industry, you know what? We can figure out where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, there's some very resourceful people in this and kind of other aspects now. I think obviously the psychedelic movement is taking off as well. And we'll find a way round things. We started the business really because it was legal just, and we believe cannabis should be legal. We wanted to put together a business that would fight for legalization, that would help fund efforts, but also to start a kind of responsible cannabis brand at the time that would fight for all of these things, show that it wasn't this awful substance and that it was very beneficial and actually quite mainstream, and that a lot of mainstream people were using it. So our branding has always been quite kind of mainstream, just to give it that very straightforward approach, because there's a lot of people that were kind of fearful of cannabis, I think, in the past, because of, certainly in the UK, because of kind of media propaganda, this threat that it was only kind of strange people that smoke cannabis, anarchists and the like, that we just didn't believe was true, and it isn't true. And there's one very good website actually in the UK that I think still exists to this day. It's everyonedoesit.com. And everyone does do it generally.com. People from all walks of life, all ages now. It's here and it's good, and it works very well for lots of people.
Oh Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's the most versatile plant in the world, and I mean, it's one of the longest cultivated plants from humans. Obviously, everyone does it. Um, what's your personal relationship with cannabis? Like, what you have these motivations to destigmatize it, to make it accessible, mainstream, but that obviously has to come from a place of a personal foundation with the plant. Can you share that?
So, I mean, I started smoking cannabis when I was at an old boys boarding school from about the age of 14, and by 15 or 16 was pretty bored of this place. And so all of our friends, we'd all go into the woods to smoke whenever we could and have a laugh together. And it kind of carried on from there, and still have very good friendships with all that group of friends. But, a lot of them carried on. We all still smoke still, some more than others. Some are drinkers too, some take psychedelics. But my view always was it was completely crazy that it was illegal, and it was really a kind of battle with that and that understanding, and the view that things had to change in the future and would change, really, that gave me the drive to set up the business with my cousin who funded it and came up with the idea in the first place. But we were also very interested in hemp from a kind of ecological standpoint. And my cousin had a license to grow hemp at the time in the UK. They were producing various kind of health foods in the late 90s. So dairy-free ice cream, gluten-free pasta. They were quite advanced, really, for that time. And yes, we were interested in it from an ecological, from the hemp point of view, but also wanted to start making changes to be able to stand up and go, we've got a cannabis company. It's legal. We're not criminals. We're not crooks. We're paying taxes. We are good, responsible people. And to help, move things on that way by leading by example, I guess.
I love it. And it seems like, you guys have been around for over 20 years, and it's funny, like, you're a household name in cannabis, I would say. Most everybody knows you guys. How has that reflected in your business with legalization? I mean, it's changed all over the world from when you started in the UK and Spain, now America, the Farm Bill. Obviously, the Farm Bill allowed you to sell them more freely. So I'm assuming that your business grew after that.
Uh, we had cut corners prior to the Farm Bill, that I won't go into too much here. But our brand
Allegedly.
was established from before the Farm Bill, but it put us in very good stead for when the Farm Bill came in. And what we've always wanted to do at every step of our business is to keep on improving what we're doing, and that's improving it from a efficiency and process to compliance. And we've continued to do that. And I think, without being arrogant, I think we have shown ourselves to be market leaders and thought leaders in that respect. We import seeds into the US now with phytosanitary certification from Europe into the US. Everything is on board, documented, invoiced correctly. We're doing everything as it should be done. And that's really exciting for us. We've all been, both me and my business partner have taken risks in the past with business and with lots of other things we do, but we both are family men and have children, and would rather not be taking risks for what we kind of love and believe in.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I went through the whole licensing process with my farm in California because of the same reason. It was like, I am a mom. Like, you can't, even though you love this plant and it shouldn't be illegal, like, yeah, high risk, high reward, but at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for your family.
Exactly, and there's got to be priorities. And at the end of the day, you're kind of, especially when you've got children, I think your freedom and spending time with your kids has to be the number one priority. But after that, number two is business, and is selling good quality product and providing a what we hope is a really good service for our clients, and that is our focus.
Yeah, well, I think you guys are doing a really good job. You carry, like, how many breeders do you carry?
It's a good question. I'm not entirely sure of the number. We got up to about 150, and then there were various big kind of macroeconomic factors like Brexit, like Corona, that suddenly really disrupted our supply chain, and so it ended up in, I don't know when I think it was 2021, coming up to 420, which was our big promo. We had to shut our warehouse in Spain that was driving all of the had all of our stock in. We had to shut it for legal reasons. So we reopened the warehouse at short notice in the UK, and we could only bring in our kind of top selling products. So we restricted from something like 5,000 different varieties to about 750. And with Corona and everyone sitting at home, we did very good sales, and it made us turn and look and go, right, why have we got quite so many? It's very expensive to maintain. And whilst we absolutely want diversity, and genetic diversity is meant to be at the heart of our business, we wanted to restrict ourselves a bit. So I think we have about 20 European breeders slash seed banks and 20 US. And the idea really is to have them spreading across the kind of gene pool, from land races to hybrid F1 hybrids to, more modern day elite US elite genetics, to the more heirloom varieties like blueberry, AK-47 and the like, but to not have lots of those same strains, just kind of, lots of the same from different breeders. We wanted to try and get the best, and the ones that are most sought after, and the ones we rate the highest. And so that's generally what we do. So I think we've got about 40 brands at the moment.
Okay, that's amazing. I really love that you narrowed it down, because there is so much genetic bottlenecking right now. I mean, people are breeding over and over again with the same thing. It might be named something different, but how do you go through that process then of like who makes the cut for Seedsman?
So it's a really hard one, and I'm not saying we've got it right. And there are, so I just kind of differentiate between breeders and seed banks, and we have a bit of both. Breeders, where you've got an individual or individuals who are directly at the forefront of the business and are very open on how they produce things. And then seed banks, where they may produce some in-house, they may buy some in, but they test them, characterize them, whatever they do, and have good demand and good quality reputations. And we kind of try and balance those out, where some people think the seed banks shouldn't be dealt with. We don't agree with that. That we think there are some very good high quality ones that have very good quality checks and assurances. And there are very good breeders as well, but there's also lots of breeders who are at the forefront of their businesses that just do lots of crosses without thinking too much, without testing them too much. And so, it's trying to get the right balance of those. And we've never got it right. The great thing about our business is there's always room for improvement. And that's what we spend our days really trying to do, is keep on making improvements, whether it be to the selection within our catalogue, or whether it be to service, or whether it be to, improvements to our website. There's always lots to do.
Oh yeah, definitely. Continuous improvement. That's like Kaizen, right? The whole Toyota factory model.
Yeah, is it right? I don't know so much about them. Yeah, I guess, I mean, it should be for any business. I think as soon as you
Mhm.
kind of rest on your laurels, you get a bit complacent, and then your competitors will overtake. And that's what we're always constantly not worried about. It's more just that we want to be at the top of our game and to lead by example, and show other people what's possible in this industry.
Well, I think you guys definitely are leaders in this industry. Like I said, household name in cannabis. You guys carry the top breeders. I'm curious, do you know who does is there somebody who does best year after year in your seed bank, or is it change every year, quarterly, or is
We
there like
have a
trends?
couple of the Dutch brands that have always, Dutch brands have sold very well. That we're now seeing auto flowering genetics that keep on getting better and better. So Fast Buds, Mephisto have kept on growing. We were the first people to start selling auto flowering genetics in 2005, and like to harp on about that, as it's one of our first. But we continue to see, the autos are getting more and more popular. But otherwise, some of the Dutch brand seed banks. But we're keener also to start promoting some of the breeders who often, I think, do less good in sales because they're more focused on the breeding, and less on the marketing. So it's trying to get that balance of how much is kind of client driven and how much we can influence it as well, through whether it be content or positioning on the website, or interviews and the like on page, is try and just bring people to the right producers so they get good results, really.
Yeah, definitely. You guys can influence that. I mean, you do amazing marketing on top of your newsletters. Your educational articles are just like amazing.
Well, you're a big part of that now, so, and we completely agree. It's important for us to educate in the position that we've managed to get ourselves into is, yeah, being able to put that content out. It's also there for search engines and things to help bring people to us, but also, there's so much crap information out there as well. Is we hope to give good information and good information for discussion because often we're growing. There is more than one way of doing things, and that's the great thing is using natural resources and things that you might have to get the best out, especially when you're outdoor gardening. Is using what you have at your disposal and only when necessary, kind of buying things in.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've enjoyed writing for you guys so much. It's been wonderful. I do write a little bit more SEO stuff for somebody else, and it's so um rigid. Like, and then the top ranking articles are like royal whatever, and I don't know, some other seed. I don't even want to promote them because the articles are so terrible, and it's like they just copy and paste each other, and it's so dumb, but it's all SEO. So I've
I
just loved that you guys let me write
I
like
mean, yeah, we like to do it naturally. The problem is with all the SEO stuff is you end up with this kind of poorly written things that's meant to be really good. But as a website owner, you have that constant battle. Obviously, you want to be in a high position, but we also want to have some integrity of the content as well. So it's a bit of a trade-off. And generally, we veer more for the kind of quality of the article than just blatant SEO. And hope it pays off. We suddenly get a lot of customers who are commenting and enjoy what they read.
yeah, I think it is. Everyone listening, go check out the Seedsman blog. They have a ton of amazing articles. They're always dropping new stuff. Okay, so I want to talk about the autoflowers because I didn't know that you guys were the first ones to bring autoflowers to the market.
So we teamed up. I was a one man company at the time, struggling. I'd had a load of seeds that I'd bought off a man called Sam the Skunk Man, who was responsible for creating Skunk Number One, Original Haze, and varieties like that. We'd taken on a few African landrace varieties and was looking at further varieties. And I saw this very small article in a English cannabis newspaper about a strain called Lowrider. Um, that was auto flowering, seed to flower in 2 months, and didn't really say much more than that. And I was then on the phone to an Italian distributor I was working with who'd become a very good friend. And I asked him about it, and he goes, "Actually, I've just taken on the exclusive distribution for that variety." And we discussed it, and I thought, seed to flower in 2 months. I had a marketing background from doing a degree at university in marketing, and to me, it just sang at so many different advantages from an impatient society we live in to medical patients in wheelchairs not being able to manage massive plants to students who maybe were just in their houses for 2 months before the summer holidays and leaving. There was just loads of really interesting ways to market the varieties, and so we jumped on with the Italian distributors. We put together a load of English content and Spanish content, and well, in all the main European languages, and we got it into all of the kind of cannabis media at the time. We got it on all the forums, and sales in Lowrider really took off. And for a couple of years, we were really, with our Italian friends, the only ones to have any auto flowering genetics. The Joint Doctor, who is a Canadian breeder, developed a few more off that Lowrider too that was a little bit stronger. It was, in the early days, the THC levels were pretty low. We had a lot of animosity because people thought we were completely fucking up the gene pool and that it would never recover. But the crescendo grew and more people found it easy, interesting, wanted to try it. And that for us was really exciting. And actually, I think realistically, the first big innovation for a while. A lot of the breeders otherwise had been focusing heavily on THC and not really looking that much at other characteristics or attributes of the plants. And so it was, quite a seismic shift, I would say, in the end. And it's one that carries on till this day. And we're hearing now, especially in the US, of more and more commercial growers who are buying F1 auto flowering genetics for large scale cultivation outside in the US. And that's really exciting. They can get a few crops a year. It's relatively risk free, and yeah, it seems to be getting a lot more commercial, I believe, which and the levels of THC terps and things in these strains has massively improved. Fast Buds have done a great job. Mephisto Genetics, our own Seedsman auto flowering. There's Night Owl. There's some really good auto varieties out there, and that's gonna, yeah, I think keep on coming really.
Yeah, it's amazing. When I started growing autoflowers, the opinion of autoflowers was not positive. You know, especially in a commercial aspect because you know, when I started growing, it was commercial right away. And you want yield, you want to check all of those boxes, and you always heard, oh, well, it's just they're small plants, you don't get as much. I saw a huge shift after Prop 64, which was recreational law in California, passed, because there was all these different now regulations on how you could grow, and you had to have specific licenses for outdoor, for light deprivation, for indoor, and you couldn't like have a combination in that licensed area. Like you couldn't be doing full sun and light dep in the same bed, even if you were not using light. So if you didn't have, it was just like this really weird law. So I saw a lot of people, okay, well, now I can't do both things on my property. I'm gonna do autos. I can only do outdoor. Then the autos came in commercially because you
Yeah.
could get two crops off. So definitely helped with some of that that craziness, because before that I had never heard of really commercial people doing autos. So
I
um,
think also over time the breeding with autos had really bred in better yields, better THC levels. You know, in those early days, you know, Lowrider was the first iteration, and it was pretty poor, but it was just interesting because it was consistently auto flowering. So it was having a plant that was a 20, I think it would generally, they would all, and it was very stable. It would generally trigger flowering on day 19 or 20 pretty much religiously. And that was pretty exciting. And that was the attribute is there, the characteristic is in. It's now bringing in the other characteristics alongside it, which the joint doctor started with and still does to this day. And others have come in equally or more successfully, you know, since then. And you know, there's some big brands that just focus on auto flowering.
so what you're talking about is basically pheno hunting autoflower strains to breed with, and they're kind of, so autoflower is what, cannabis ruderalis, but they're bringing in sativa, they're bringing in photoperiod genetics into it, and then pheno hunting for traits that are still autoflowering, obviously, but you know, higher
Exactly.
yield, higher
It's first of all
THC.
breeding in the auto flowering trait and then starting to breed in the other traits. Um, and yeah, they've been able to do it now, I guess, successfully for many generations. But in the early days, suddenly, you know, the giant doctor had it down with Lowrider and his varieties were consistent for day one. We saw at the time and were quite not concerned. We were just kept a very close eye on things, and everyone was trying to copy Lowrider very quickly because they could see the benefit, despite a lot of kind of people being rude about it. There was a lot of talk about it, so people were copying it, but it took 2 or 3 years for people to actually stabilize that auto flowering in. And we saw a lot of poor products in around 2007, I would say, eight. Quite a lot of batches of what were meant to be auto flowering seeds that hadn't stabilized that auto flowering trait. But then, you know, you've got since subsequently in the kind of 2010 onwards, they managed to do that. And then they managed to breed in higher levels of THC, better yields and terps and the like.
What do you think, since the trends have changed and you've had a pulse on the market? Obviously, you're selling seeds. So, what are those traits that growers are looking for? Can you see that in trends through your seed sales?
Um, yeah, we can a bit. I think there's improvements in the market in general. There's a lot of it is often following names of popular varieties. What we're increasingly trying to do is move away from that. without scaring off our clients who may want those kind of big names, is we're trying to deliver, if people want whatever it is, a wedding cake, they're not necessarily looking to see if it grows well in their area when they're growing outside. And then when it doesn't, they'll come and blame us for rubbish seeds. So what our job really is to try and educate them to maybe be buying the varieties that is going to suit their climate, their environment better, so they're going to get better results with it. And so we're increasingly looking at early varieties for outside that are going to be, especially in kind of northern climates, wet climates, are going to avoid any frost, any late rain, harvestable early. We are starting to see now that the quality of breeding, and especially kind of molecular breeding coming in, should bring in some real improvements in terms of resistances to mold and pests and pathogens, which hasn't necessarily been quite so easy or quite so focused on previously.
Cat Lady brought up something. What is molecular breeding?
So again, I'm not a breeder, but molecular breeding is looking for markers within, and so this is where we should get Dr. Gary in to tell me that I'm wrong on this. But it's looking for genetic markers that identify traits, and then you're able to breed them in a quicker rate because you're using computer technology and identify what traits are related to what genes. And then when you've identified the genes, so instead of having to grow everything fully out, you can identify it by doing genetic testing on smaller plants. And it just speeds
Okay.
up the whole process.
Wow, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We'll save a ton of time and money because pheno hunting is a process. Like,
Yes. And there are other ways. We work with a company called Trilogene quite a lot in the US, who do a lot of science-based breeding. So they're doing a lot of their breeding in laboratories. It's not GM. And they've just got very interesting techniques. Again, I'm not an expert to explain their techniques. I pick up all the kind of terminology and then don't know how to explain it that well. They use a technique called mutagenesis, where they're encouraging mutations in very early stage plants, and then they'll take genetic markers or be looking for the genetic markers off them. So instead of having, like Humboldt Seed Company did, is growing everything out huge, they can do this within a laboratory with thousands of varieties too. And so you're just getting these, you're letting science get involved as well. And I think the guy at the Trilogene, who's the breeder Usama, who's a Moroccan guy who used to work on soybean, where the advancements they're making as plant scientists in soybean are so fractional because they've been constantly doing it over the last 50, 60, 70 years, that every improvement is so small. And his belief is that because cannabis has been in this kind of in a prohibitionary stage and not really worked on by people like him with PhDs and the like, is that they can actually start making sizable differences because of advanced breeding techniques. So yeah, for us, it's a bit of a balance of trying to encourage people to get to buy the varieties that are going to work best for them, not just the names that they find most familiar.
well, I love that you said that. I love that that's your view on it because obviously, that's how I feel as well. We've talked about this, and I'm super excited to get Blaze started, botanical latitude and zone evaluation, because I think that that is a huge problem that outdoor growers, they get upset. They say, oh, outdoor sucks because they're growing strains that were bred inside, grown inside. The temperature doesn't fluctuate, the humidity doesn't fluctuate. It's like such a bred in such a controlled environment. And then they're put off from outdoor growing. And I think that everyone should grow outdoor if they can because
I
you should be
completely
outside more.
agree. I completely agree. I'm a country boy, always have been, always will be. We love outdoor growers. We love indoor growers, but we particularly love outdoor growers. And also we see them really as the future of our business. As we do move towards increased legalization, is we do see a drop off of growers in kind of urban areas where maybe it's more expensive to grow, put in your spare bedroom and putting in a couple of grow tents suddenly is less interesting if you've got a dispensary at the end of your road. Whereas anyone who's got land growing vegetables and other plants, which we do and love doing, is it just is such a natural thing to have alongside, whether you're using it or whether your neighbour's using it and you're giving it away, or your granny or whoever it might be. It's just a nice plant to grow if you're growing other things. And I believe everyone should, if you've got the space, grow vegetables, lettuces, whatever you can. And yeah, and bring cannabis into your garden.
Oh yeah, definitely. All about the polyculture, biodiversity. Like your home garden and your cannabis garden can coexist together beautifully. I was looking at your website and how you categorize like your seeds. You have a climate option and you can see like wet, dry. I can't remember all of the options, but that is amazing because I don't think enough people are pushing that. Most seed packets just say harvest by October 15th or
So
whatever.
that we're going to improve on. I think we're about to change the whole categorization that is going to be on in a couple of weeks on the website. At the moment, it's with our IT guys. I like a lot of the information on our website. We get buy seeds off our suppliers, and a lot of the times they come with not as much information as we would like. So we have to go about putting together that information from other information, from collecting it from the breeders, from looking at people that have been growing their varieties, from looking at reviews, from collecting data from any reliable source that we can to build up a better picture. I think I mentioned to you, ultimately, we'd love to have something like Grow Diaries where we can keep on improving that, like with your Blaze project, is really collecting user data, grower data, and to be feeding that in, if the breeders can't provide this information, which I think they should be able to do better, and we are pushing them, that otherwise we'll start pushing that and collecting that data ourselves, and yeah, getting it from customers.
Well,
Ideally, it
I'm
would be coming better though from top and bottom.
exactly. It should come from both, but I'm hoping that we have our small sample size for Blaze this year. Next year, I'd like to see it open up to like all strains, if we once we figure out how the data is being collected, how to analyze it. And that would flow seamlessly with your grow diaries and kind of just I could just see it now. It'll be
Yeah,
amazing.
I think that would be really interesting. The other thing that would potentially be useful, and is another thing that we're looking at within the business is and I know Humboldt do a bit of, is the genomics as well. Is having that linked to this, either having partner or a few partners that can do that. And there's a increasing amount of businesses just to make sure that there is that consistency in the varieties. Yeah, that then goes with the cultivation, and then obviously you've got so many variables because different people in different climatic zones and different seasons in different years. But it will be really interesting collecting that data over time and carrying on looking at it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm hoping that we can kind of figure out just like some growing zones so that people can just like type in their zip code and then it would be like, "Oh, you're in growing zone." I don't know what the names are going to be yet, but here's a list of 20 strains that will do great in your area. And then tips and tricks from people who've grown it before, because then people will feel more confident. It's just like when you buy a packet of carrot seeds. You know what I mean? Like you should
Absolutely.
have that.
So we do that. Our climatic stuff that is done mostly at the moment by flowering times when we expect to harvest by, and a lot of people argue with this, that kind of indica, sativa, broadleaf, narrowleaf. Generally we find that the more sativa-like varieties, obviously where there's lots of humidity, warmer in humidity is better because you're less susceptible. But it's not the most scientific route. It's the best we can do at the moment. But like with everything we discussed earlier, we want to keep on improving with it.
Yeah, exactly. Especially nowadays with most strains are very hybridized between indica sativa and have been bred so far that you can have like physiological differences that represent sativa, like maybe it is a narrow leaf, but then you still have super dense buds because that's what we've been breeding for. So even a
Yeah,
sativa leaning strain is going to be
it,
like,
exactly. It's not foolproof because of that. And then it's making those generalizations at the moment and then trying to make exceptions where you can from it is the best we can do until, projects like yours or until breeders are running those. And there are certain tests, I believe in Colombia with the national registrations there is if you're registering varieties, they have to be grown in 3 different climatic zones and tested.
Yeah, yeah. Jorge was talking to me about he used to do like American, I can't remember, but he just got sent seeds from vegetables and flowers, and because he was a gardening writer, and they'd send it to all of the different zones and test it out and give back their feedback. So there's the framework is there already for all other crops, so we just need to pick up, and we're finally able to do that because of legalization. So how have you noticed, you mentioned that COVID had increased sales. You mentioned like a few things that you could see a shift in that trend of seed sales. I'm curious, how is legalization like you said that the dispensary, oh, if it opens up, then maybe they're not trying to grow anymore because
I
it's
mean, that's
cheaper.
a general thought. I haven't seen that with data entirely, and we still haven't because I guess the US is legal in certain states, but we then get so we're at the moment seeing very good sales in Ohio that I think is just about to legalize. It kind of changes and gradual, but at the same time, we used to sell a lot in Canada. That obviously has been legal for some time, but they now sell through all of the kind of government routes. So we've seen a big dip in sales there. Legalization, which we've always fought for and always believed in, sometimes can look a little bit scary. We see a different type of person coming into the industry that aren't always the kind of people that necessarily we'd get on with or have the right views on it that we right or same views as we do on it. So as much as we're excited by legalization, we're also quite scared because it can go the wrong way and the wrong route. Um, and that's what we want to avoid, really. We want to have a business, I think, that encourages lots of small producers. I love, if you're looking at other kind of products, a kind of wine style model where you've got lots of people producing on localized areas who are very proud of their product rather than something that's so heavily commoditized like tobacco where you've got 3 or 4 big players internationally and the kind of romance and pride over your product is all but out the window. So it's just looking really to see how legalization comes in the future and how it looks down the line.
Yeah, definitely. I hope to see a lot more home growers because there's something to be said about the difference from that mass produced tobacco like product versus the craft wine
Absolutely.
that's, I mean, you smoke flower that's grown small batch craft, you can taste the love, you can see the love, versus boof mids corporate grown mass produced dry stale weed.
I hope so. I think the other thing on more of an international level is being able to trade internationally. We work with a few people in different countries. You look towards the Caribbean and they're all trying to import US genetics, and you think, well, that's a bit of a shame, really. Is what they should be doing is getting the best out of the genetics they have over there, improving them over time. But getting, again, like you have with wines, is the kind of dominant denomination where your product gets really well recognized for how it's produced and the type and taste and flavor being very consistent but very unique, which in time, I hope when there is a legal international market, is it makes your product more marketable, I think. Whereas if you're just competing on price and all got similar genetics grown in different ways, it's less interesting in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love how you keep referring to the wine industry because that is definitely a framework to be, taken as an example. I love how you can buy a bottle of wine and it'll say like biodynamically grown and then explain what biodynamic and regenerative agriculture is. And I really think that that connection between what we consume is so separate, which I always find funny for weed growers because they care so much about what they feed their plants.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what do you eat? are you supporting, like, is it extend beyond cannabis? So I really hope that the effort to grow clean medicine, sustainably grown, transcends from just cannabis and kind of encourages this awakening that we can do better.
100%, 100%. And the wine model is great. You know, the amount of people that produce wine that are so passionate about their product, and you can go to all these beautiful vineyards and they'll show you around and then share a glass of wine with you at the end. And I just think just a very nice way of doing things. And I think it shows a really nice model, I think, for the cannabis industry that I would love to see be in place.
Agreed. Let's see the weed vineyard. I want to go smoke joints, 420 happy hour with the farmer. I don't want to buy it from a regulated dispensary with a security guard out front. I mean, it's that would be a lot more relaxing and less anxiety. I mean, I've really never bought weed from a dispensary, but it seems stressful.
Sure. I mean, I guess they have their place in urban areas. But yeah,
Yeah.
you know, if you're out in the countryside and someone's growing some beautiful organic sun-grown weed near you, it's much nicer to be going to their farm shop or their little barn where they've got it all curing and, you know, stashes. Yeah, that's certainly my kind of preferred way.
All right, let's get people to vote for that, encourage it because they're fighting right now. I know California is fighting for that kind of farm to market framework for legacy growers. So I hope people see the value in that and that we see more of it. Um, so I going back to like trends and seeing, let's diverge from sales necessarily, but like
Yeah.
flavors. What have you noticed? You've been in the weed game, flavor game for a long time. Let's talk about it.
So suddenly we're seeing much more interest now. I mean, people have always been interested in flavors. I think there's been much less information on them, much obviously less testing. There's better access now to labs. There's better stability and consistency in product, although there's still improvements that need to be made on that front. But you know, we're starting to get a more mature market, I think, with better educated, more connoisseurs in the market who know what they want and whether they want the gases or the fruity ones or whatever it is. There's people that have a calling for what they need and will make it very clear and then pick accordingly. And then you've got more novice and beginners again who we try and educate and well, just show them what's available, how we differentiate the varieties, and then let them choose. And quite often they'll pick, you know, from a few and then grow them out and see how they like it.
So you're helping, do you think that there are a lot of novice growers? I mean, you're who are coming to buy seeds from you?
Yeah, we haven't quite got the mechanisms yet to work out, but we're very interested in that because we want to better direct the novices to better quality information so that they get good results from the start. So, you know, if you've got someone who's clearly a beginner, is giving them the information on germination and all that kind of early step things, so they get good results from the start. What we don't want them coming back with is having screwed up on the germination level, coming back to us going, "That's your fault. We want more seeds," reviewing us badly when you know it's up to them really. We want to give them all information, good quality product from the start, and get them to have good results first time. Because if they have good results first time, there's so much more likely to do it again and again and again. And you know, you've got to learn each time. But as long as you can get good results, I think the first time, or okay results the first time, you're so much more inclined to do it again. And that is our, yeah, that's what we're really keen on doing, really, with those type of growers. And then with our more experienced, it's more just providing them with the diversity, varieties that maybe challenge them, varieties that maybe a bit more unique, some of the land race varieties, things that are just a bit different that will keep their interest growing. We're also about to be a bit more, we're launching, well, we've kind of got a few already on, but we're going to market them a bit more as the mutant varieties. So things like those kind of fern type varieties, variegated varieties that I mean, we're not so sure about flavors and tastes for them, but they're a bit of fun. If you've got an outdoor garden or something and you want to surprise your friends, you know, we want to make gardening as much as to get you a really good quality product is bring the fun into it too.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. So with that being said, let's hear your best practices for seedling care.
So I'm not an expert grower, despite what I should be as a seedsman for 20 years. I'm not the best grower. I live in the UK where we have to be very careful, and at the forefront of this business have been very careful. But I do grow a lot of other plants as well. I think, we would always suggest germinating in cotton wool, and using clean water, and then using a very good quality compost. I don't know if you have John Innes in the States, but we use a kind of John Innes Seedling compost. And then especially with autos, is putting them straight in a big pot generally, not transplanting them, because especially with the autos, they've got so little time to bounce back from any problems. Um, but yeah, and then humidity light, depending where you're growing, inside or outside. But I think having a really good quality compost if you're growing in soil, from early on is vital.
All right, you heard it there, guys. Take care of your plants. I love that you said put your autoflowers in the big pot forever, like they're forever home right away or as early as possible. I'm all about it. I like to do the soil block because it doesn't have any transplant shock. It's not like you're
Yeah.
transplanting it and then see if they start. Because sometimes, it's okay. It's normal. Hopefully, you get 100% successful germination, but I have to say, your guys' seeds, I almost always get 100%. But a lot of people send me seeds, and sometimes they're like super immature, small, they don't do anything. So
You
that
know,
can be a huge
there's
disappointment.
we get people emailing us from time to time on the germination, and we test all of our seeds. We only really, we're professionals at this. We've been doing it long enough. There's no point in really for us releasing seeds that we don't think are going to germinate. So we only release seeds that have tested when the batches have tested 95% viable. That said, they are live products, and very small differences sometimes in environment can make big differences. So particularly in winter when people are germinating, if they're, not somewhere warm where, that can really make a big difference. So we make sure that, really customers know what they're doing and take it into consideration. And we will look after customers if they have problems and they look like they've done the right thing. But we also used to be too generous with that. I think customers were taking advantage. And so we pulled back a little bit because we are confident at the end of the day with the viability of our products because we've tested them.
Yep, yep. So if it's winter, put your seeds somewhere warm. I like to, like by the stove maybe or somewhere that it's going to keep on staying
Yeah.
heated if you don't have your grow tent set up. Let's talk about seeds versus clones because as legalization opens up, there's more clones available to people. That's what I've noticed is like people can just buy clones. So what do you think, seeds versus clone?
So we
Yeah,
are
go ahead.
obviously called Seedsman. We're actually we should be launching with clones in the next 2 or 3 weeks, which is quite exciting. Um, but I mean, our preference is generally for seeds. But we really understand the need for clones as well. And it kind of depends on various different reasons. I think if you're struggling to germinate seeds, for example, as a beginner, buy some clones, have that job taken away from you. Clones suddenly from us will be delivered within is a next day delivery in the mainland USA. So they will arrive healthy and they'll take away that issue for you, albeit clones are more expensive, so you pay for it. But generally, we find there's much less risk of kind of spreading diseases and pests with seeds. There's better vigor. But it takes more time. Again, if you haven't ordered for a certain time, that extra couple of weeks that clones have can be to an advantage. So there are pros and cons to both, I would say.
That's amazing. What exciting news. I am really stoked. I think that that's going to open up doors. I mean, obviously for you guys, but I'm looking forward to pushing clones because clones are like, you know, for commercial purposes or for uniformity, for,
Exactly.
canopy management even. It was like it's nice to be able to have clones. So you're saying you're going to be able to ship them out the next day. How are you marketing then just towards home growers, or are you going to be trying to
So
fill like
initially, we're working with partners to do this, partners based in Oregon who've been doing it for a while. We are going to market it through on the Seedsman site to home growers, giving them the choice really. You won't be able to add seeds and clones to the same basket because they're being sent from different places. But to give people, to educate them on the pros and the cons of both, and to let them make the decision to, it's really, we see it as empowering growers. Clones obviously comes in as a competing product to seeds, but also one that works very naturally side by side. So it's been quite a natural addition, to the website. And there's which again, having some IT stuff changes done, and that should be up soon. And then we'll be adding, I think, probably around 75 different clonal varieties suddenly by the end of March. So it may not be at the forefront of spring, but we will suddenly have them in by April and moving towards kind of 420.
that's awesome. That's really exciting. 420, look out for clones, 75 varieties. Um, what kind of volume then are you going to be like like if people want a lot, are they going to be able to like or I
There'll
mean, I don't
be,
know what
if
the
they
laws
want,
are.
so we will have stock of some that will be available to buy there and then. If people want larger quantities, they'll be done on custom orders, and we'll be able
Okay.
to take custom orders. I believe it's a anything between 1 and 3 week delay with those, depending on the variety and stage of the mothers.
That's amazing because you don't know how many times I've bought clones from a warehouse in Oakland or something crazy, and then oh, I got russet mites. Oh, they're like
So
um
we've chosen the supplier, and our job really is to do the diligence on them, regular diligence on them. So we're sending their products to testing. We have screened their protocols for bringing in new genetics and to making sure they're avoiding and doing the right things for pests and pathogens. We had Dr. Gary look over all of that for us as our chief scientific officer, or previous well, he still works alongside us more on a freelance basis now. He's helped out with those things, and we'll continue to monitor them. To make sure we're not bringing in anything unpleasant, and to make sure they're doing things to the highest standard. Then the idea is that they will only send out clones Monday till Wednesday, so that nothing gets stuck in any courier kind of warehouses or anything like that. And yeah, it's a next day delivery, only mainland US, so we won't be able to do any of the islands because it just gets too
yeah.
complicated.
Yeah. Wow, that's really exciting. Cool. I'm looking forward to trying out some of your clones. Um yeah, like hop latent virus was all over California. They estimated like I think over 60% of the genetics in the nurseries were passing around hop latent because there wasn't anyone doing due diligence. It was like kind of the Wild West free for all. Let's just trade genetics, send these here. There's no testing, there's no rigorous like process to go through. So it's really great to hear that you guys are going to do that in
We're in discussions. We're not quite there yet of doing all the tests on seeds as well for hop latent virus and various other viruses as well. Um, yeah, so that will be introduced before, I would say, before June probably as well. Something that we've been really keen to do for a while. We've now got partners in the US that can do that for us, and in Spain where we do a lot of our distribution from too.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. I've heard that it was like, or read 8% of I don't know if it was hop latent specifically or another like tobacco mosaic, but it can be passed on to seeds. There's an 8% chance that the seeds will
I
then
think
carry the
it's
virus.
less in seeds, but it's still possible. We're not doing that out of any overt concern or anyone highlighting it, but it's just a nice stamp to be able to put on your seeds above, your competitors and other people, and also again to lead the market and go, we should all be doing this. To get rid of these viruses, to make sure we're eliminating them. All seed companies should be testing their products and selling them with confidence.
Yep, I agree. Well, I think that's a great project to see you guys working with people in Oregon and then having Dr. Gary on board. I just love the synergy of this community and how we can connect through the plant essentially. But you know, you are great. Gary's great. Everyone that I've met at Seedsman has just been a wonderful community. Most everyone I've met in the cannabis community is, pretty great. There's obviously some bad apples, some criminals
Yeah.
in there that owe me money. If that's you and you're listening to this, pay me.
Me too.
Yeah, seriously. We have everyone in the cannabis industry has that. I
We
think
all
that's just
know.
like part of it. Like, oh, that's just the
Yes.
price of the game.
Exactly,
Um,
and you get those in all industries at the end of the day. But there aren't so many of them in my experience, but there are some definitely.
oh yeah, definitely. So, um, the cannabis industry is known for this, like strong bonds, shared passion over the plant. Um, can you share a little bit about that? Any great stories about your
Yeah,
connection with the cannabis community?
I mean, so my partner and the mother of my children, who I share this house with, I met her through the industry. She grew up in Mallorca in Spain with her very good friend was Howard Marks, Mr. Nice's daughter, and so they went to school at a young age until Howard was then arrested, and I think they changed schools at that stage. But yeah, I owe my children suddenly to meeting through cannabis and through friends that I've made in the industry. We used to spend a lot of time with Howard back in the day when before he sadly passed away. And he would come to a lot of trade shows with us, and we worked on the Mr. Nice brand. But also just all the amazing people for us, I think is like your citizen science project actually is meeting people that buy our products, like our service, have amazing stories. We I think we're about to do it maybe today or tomorrow is launch a survey that surveys our customers. And the last time we did it about 3 years ago, we just got so many beautiful responses, quite a lot of open-end questions. So not ideal for your kind of citizen science project, but people were writing these massive paragraphs and essays about what the plant meant to them, how much they loved it. Some who just hated killing their plants at the end of the growth cycle and felt really guilty, and just the amount of love and passion for growing this plant, whether it was indoors or outdoors, and what it did for them, not just smoking it, but actually the art of growing it and of learning cycle after cycle and improving what they did and suffering problems and failures, and just what it did to them, and help them improve kind of mentally, psychologically. Growing things is good for you, especially cannabis.
I agree 100%. And I think more people should do it. And as legalization opens up, hopefully we'll see that community grow. And then the cannabis community can like have the butterfly effect to the larger community because the more people who smoke weed, the more chill hopefully everyone will be and there won't be so much division. That's my hippie ideals of the future.
Well, I hope you're right. It certainly, helps. And in a world like today, we need all the help we can get for sure.
Oh yeah. Okay, so what's your favorite cannabis compound? Secondary metabolite. It can be anything that's produced by the plant.
I mean, we got quite into the kind of medicinal. I had a friend come to me a few years ago who was one of my old school smoking buddies, and his mum was really ill with cancer, and we got quite into the kind of medicinal application of cannabis to help his mum out, who was originally quite against it, but started taking cannabis oils when she was having chemotherapy and essentially when she was dying. And actually, we found with her one-to-one varieties were the best, and so actually was suddenly finding varieties that aren't so interest. Well, we don't have so much demand for them at the moment, which I think is a bit of a shame. These one-to-one kind of THC to CBD varieties. We've got one called CBD cream and cheese. And she found that because she didn't want to be stoned, she wanted to be up and in her garden. She had an amazing flower garden, and it helped get her up and about in her kind of dying months and up and in her garden. And I think she died at her home a few months later. But having been up and able to get out and have those last 2 months up and about, rather than just suffering actually really from the cancer and the chemotherapy. So it's kind of combinations of cannabinoids I think that's interesting, that gives people with medicinal needs, not just the psychological effect, but actually also able to make them function better
Yeah.
under some
Yeah.
pretty hard circumstances, a lot of people.
That's amazing. I need to get some more of the CBD cream from you because I think I gave them to somebody and I really love one to one. But whenever anyone asks me for, especially for CBD variety, because they need it for medicine, I'm like, oh yeah, here, let me help you because I believe 100% it's a fact that cannabis will heal the body and having that CBD in there is so nice so that you're not like fully stoned all day. You can
Yeah,
continue.
exactly. A lot of people don't want that kind of psychological, especially if you've got, big worries from some pretty serious illnesses, is you don't necessarily want to be stoned, but you want to have the other benefits. And I think that's where those kind of varieties are very interesting. And they were a lot more prevalent, we found, for a while in the seed market before you got CBD products everywhere internationally. And then they slightly died down, and we slightly hope for a resurgence actually in producers producing more one-to-one, two-to-one varieties. As yeah, I think that they're interesting, and I think they bring in more people to cannabis than your normal kind of hardcore people who love being stoned. Which I think is good and important, to bring those people in as well to be a bit more inclusive, rather than all those that just love THC and everything that kind of goes with that.
Oh yeah. I mean, when people tell me that they can't smoke because it gives them anxiety, I'm like, you just haven't found the right strain yet. Try a 1 to 1 or a 2 to 1, high CBD, just a little bit. I promise, like, there is something out there that works with your brain chemistry that's not going to give
Yeah.
you anxiety.
If you like what you've been hearing here on Sungrown Stories, make sure to check out the Queen of the Sungrown Patreon. There are multiple tiers, so if you can only give a little, go ahead and join Friends Ablaze. If you are really into reading the articles and checking out the recipes, go ahead and go the next tier up, the $5 tier. And if you want full access to all that is Queen of the Sungrown, make sure to join that $10 tier. You get to join Tuesday night exclusive Patreon only virtual meetings where you can ask your questions, talk with the community, learn about a new topic every week. She posts articles all the time, and I've been a member since 2021. I really can't thank this group enough for what I've learned, especially from Alex, but also the community. They're amazing, and you should want to check it out. See you there.
Finally, our last question. And this is just a silly, fun one, or you can take it seriously. I mean, it's just what is your most memorable 420 experience?
So the last few years, and we've been in London, in the UK, in Hyde Park, where all the stoners in London congregate to go and smoke for 420. And I think last time the crowds parted, and everyone announced that Snoop Dogg was coming through, and one brand had done a very good job of finding a Snoop Dogg lookalike. Surrounded by security guards and just hundreds and thousands of people all kind of surrounding, all smoking big joints. And I mean, it clearly wasn't Snoop Dogg, but it was a very good and very funny bit of marketing, actually, which I'm a little bit annoyed they beat me to an idea like that. But that was last year, so that was my best memory recently.
Amazing.
Um,
I love it. That's a
Yeah,
great
it was just a
memory.
lot of laughs, very funny, and a really fun afternoon, as it always is, 420.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, most of us are smoking every day. It seems like if you're a I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe that's a broad-ended statement to make that most of us, if we smoke, are smoking every day. But I guess I just smoke every day, so I assume everyone smokes every day. But 420 is just fun to have people come together and just celebrate this plant and have one day to
Wait, what do you guys do then normally for 420? Just groups of friends, or you go into town, or how does it work for you guys?
well, since having a child, it's looked a lot different than
Sure.
in the past. But my favorite 420 used to be they threw this snowboarding rail jam like that was not at a ski resort, but it was backcountry, and they would build these crazy like jumps with rope swings, and
Awesome.
people would be barbecuing and have their dogs, and it would just be like the whole mountainside lit up, blazing, and
Great.
that was always my favorite.
Great. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes, it was. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and doing this with me. We'll have to come back next year and keep up to date with the project and kind of just do this again sometime.
Exactly. Thank you very much for having me on.
There was a light, let it come in, choosing her sin. Every morning, choosing to be sad.